A woman living a double life. A murder cloaked in deception, and a fortune rooted in betrayal. Welcome to Mysteries and Crime. Tonight, we uncover the chilling tale of Angie. Here's your clue for today. What did Angie allegedly plant at the scene to mislead investigators? In February of 2008, the lifeless body of 35-year-old Ana Páez was discovered in a rented apartment in Barcelona. Her alleged killer? María Ángeles Molina, known simply as Angie, a woman whose web of lies stretched back more than a decade, and included another suspicious death. It was February 19th, 2008. The quiet of an upscale Barcelona apartment was pierced by the unsettling discovery of Ana Páez's body. Nude, face covered with a plastic bag, her hands limp, her body motionless. The scene was staged with disturbing precision. At first glance, investigators believed the crime had sexual motivations. There were traces of semen, foreign fingerprints, and personal effects scattered in apparent chaos. But as the details unfolded, the narrative began to unravel. According to reports, Ana Páez, a fashion designer by trade, had agreed to meet with her longtime friend, Angie, for dinner that night. Instead of a warm reunion, she allegedly walked into a carefully orchestrated trap. Law enforcement arrived at the apartment and quickly noted that something was off. The body showed no signs of struggle, no defensive wounds. It looked too clean, too purposeful. Within hours, Angie claimed she was in Zaragoza, hundreds of kilometers away, to collect her father's ashes. But inconsistencies soon surfaced. Her story had cracks, and those cracks widened with every step of the investigation. What they uncovered next would connect Angie to a disturbing past and a fortune built on lies. Ana Páez was 35 years old, a talented fashion designer based in Barcelona. Colleagues described her as driven, elegant, and deeply compassionate. She worked in boutique ateliers across the city and had dreams of launching her own fashion line. Ana lived a quiet life, but not a lonely one. Friends and family often spoke of her warmth and humor. She had built a reputation for kindness and professionalism, someone who inspired trust. According to reports, she had reconnected with Angie just weeks before her death. They had known each other from years prior and had begun exchanging messages. There was no indication that Ana felt threatened or wary of Angie. On the night of February 19th, Ana left home expecting a friendly dinner, not knowing it would be her last. Her death shocked the design community. Many attended her memorial, confused and heartbroken. The circumstances of her passing were bizarre, the crime scene theatrical, and the motive unclear. Ana's trust, it seemed, had been used against her. But this was not the first time tragedy had followed Angie. Back in 1996, Angie's husband, Juan Antonio Alvarez Litpin, had died under suspicious circumstances. At the time, the incident was ruled accidental. It would take Ana's murder more than a decade later to cast new doubt on what truly happened that day. By 2008, she was in her early 40s. Outwardly, she presented herself as educated, cultured, and successful. She had worked in education and dabbled in real estate. But beneath the surface, her financial history was filled with irregularities. According to investigators, Angie had a long-standing pattern of deception. She had opened bank accounts under false names, secured loans using falsified documents, and was allegedly connected to multiple identity fraud schemes. In the case of Ana Páez, suspicion fell quickly. Angie had rented the apartment where Ana was found, using a different name. Surveillance footage placed her near the scene that day. Despite her claims of being in Zaragoza, police also uncovered evidence of insurance policies taken out in Ana's name, with Angie listed as the beneficiary. Then came the detail that shifted the tone of the investigation. Angie had allegedly planted semen at the crime scene, collected from a male brothel, in a deliberate attempt to mislead law enforcement into pursuing a sexual motive. This level of manipulation, this attempt to stage a false narrative, shocked investigators. Though Angie maintained her innocence, the forensic trail was growing. Her alibi was unraveling, and the patterns from her past began to take on new meaning. The question became clear. Had Angie killed before? And if so, had she gotten away with it? On the evening of February 19th, 2008, Ana Páez walked into an apartment she believed belonged to a friend. The space had been rented just days earlier by Angie, under a false identity, using forged documents. Inside, everything had been arranged. According to investigators, Ana was offered wine. Moments later, she began to feel dizzy. Toxicology reports would later suggest the presence of a fast-acting sedative, though the precise substance was never conclusively identified. Ana likely lost consciousness within minutes. She never woke up. The next part was methodical. According to forensic analysis, Angie allegedly placed a plastic bag over Ana's head, sealing it tightly with tape. There were no defensive wounds, no signs of resistance. Ana had been incapacitated. The cause of death was ruled asphyxiation. But it was not just the killing that disturbed detectives. It was the staging. Angie allegedly moved Ana's body into a specific position, nude, partially covered, and arranged the room to imply a sexual encounter gone wrong. She scattered clothes, left a used condom, and smeared biological material across surfaces. That material, it turned out, was not from Ana or Angie. Investigators later traced it to a sex worker Angie had reportedly paid days earlier. DNA analysis revealed that she had acquired semen from a male brothel, storing it with the intent of planting false evidence at the crime scene. This was not a spontaneous act. It was a scripted performance. Police also discovered that, in the days prior, Angie had submitted applications for credit in Ana's name, along with life insurance policies, listing herself as the sole beneficiary. One policy alone was worth over 600,000 euros, and the alibi, it quickly fell apart. Angie claimed to be in Zaragoza retrieving her father's ashes, but toll booth logs showed inconsistencies. Surveillance footage revealed she had returned to Barcelona earlier than she claimed. Investigators also found the tape and plastic bags used in the murder at her home. Inside her computer, documents tying her to identity fraud, passwords, scanned IDs, and dozens of templates for fake applications. It painted a picture of someone deeply versed in manipulation, someone capable of crafting entire lives from scratch. The similarities to her past grew more disturbing. In 1996, her husband, Juan Antonio Alvarez Litbin, was found dead in their home. He had suffered a fatal fall, and no charges were ever filed. But years later, after Ana's death, authorities reopened that case. The life insurance payout from his passing, nearly identical to the one taken out for Ana Páez. Though no formal charges were ever brought in that earlier case, the parallels were impossible to ignore. The crime scene in Barcelona had been designed to deceive, to buy time, and to shift suspicion in the most grotesque of ways. But this time, Angie had left too many threads behind. And with each one pulled, a deeper truth began to emerge. From the outset, detectives knew something about the scene felt off. They immediately flagged the use of a false rental identity, which pointed them toward María Ángeles Molina. Once they confirmed the alias used to lease the apartment traced back to Angie, the investigation intensified. Authorities assembled a special task force, combining cybercrime experts, financial analysts, and forensic specialists. Surveillance footage was collected from surrounding streets. Toll records and fuel receipts were used to piece together Angie's movements on the day of the crime. Investigators also conducted interviews with Anna's co-workers and friends. Each statement seemed to reinforce the same point. Anna had trusted Angie. There had been no known conflict. Then came the bank trail, a series of unauthorized loan applications and insurance policies, all linked to Angie. It became clear. This was not a random act of violence. It was a calculated plan, executed with chilling precision. Despite the mountain of circumstantial evidence, the case presented daunting forensic challenges. The crime scene had been intentionally contaminated. The planted semen, later traced to a third party, initially led police down the wrong investigative path. It took weeks to unravel that deception. The sedative found in Anna's system was another problem. It was not among commonly screened substances and left minimal trace. The autopsy pointed to drugging, but without a confirmed compound, proving premeditation in court would be harder. Angie's electronic devices, however, told a deeper story. According to reports, her computer held files related to forged IDs, bank fraud, and applications under Anna's name. Forensic techs also recovered deleted browser history showing searches like how to simulate a robbery and death by suffocation without signs. Even with missing pieces, the digital trail became the backbone of the prosecution. And with that, the weight of evidence began to shift. News of Ana Páez's murder sent ripples of fear through Barcelona's creative community. A respected designer had been found dead in what initially appeared to be a sexually motivated attack. But as the truth emerged, that the alleged killer had been a friend, the fear turned inward. People questioned their own circles, their trust in those closest to them. Discussions around personal safety dominated newsrooms, cafes, and classrooms. Many who had known Angie were stunned. She had never shown signs of violence. She was articulate, poised, and even admired by some. But now, her carefully crafted image was collapsing. The press seized upon the twists of the case. A woman allegedly staging a murder scene using stolen DNA, forging identities, and tying the crime to a decade-old suspicious death. Headlines were sensational, sometimes reckless. Tabloids dubbed her the Widow of Shadows and the Woman with 100 Faces. But the media spotlight also amplified the investigation. New witnesses came forward, including an employee at the brothel who confirmed Angie's visit. Editorials debated justice, deception, and gendered assumptions in crime. While the courtroom would eventually decide Angie's fate, the court of public opinion had already begun deliberating. Though María Ángeles Molina, Angie, was the sole person charged, investigators initially pursued other theories. The presence of foreign DNA at the scene, the staged sexual elements, and Angie's claimed alibi all created early uncertainty. For a brief period, authorities considered whether Ana Páez had been targeted by someone else, perhaps an unknown partner or disgruntled client. However, those theories unraveled as the forensic profile of the crime shifted from spontaneous to staged. Once it was confirmed that the semen came from a third party unrelated to the victim, and that Angie had visited that brothel herself, the deception became undeniable. Attention turned to the past. Juan Antonio Alvarez Litbin, Angie's late husband, had died in 1996 under questionable circumstances. Though officially ruled an accident, the similarity in insurance patterns reignited public suspicion. Still, no charges were ever filed in that earlier case. Angie's trial began in 2012, 4 years after Anna's death. Prosecutors presented a digital web of falsified documents, forged insurance claims, and misleading evidence, alongside surveillance records and witness testimony. They argued the murder was premeditated, motivated by financial desperation and facilitated by years of practiced fraud. The defense argued a lack of direct physical evidence tying Angie to the act of killing. They insisted she was not in Barcelona at the time, that the timeline was speculative, and that no murder weapon had been conclusively found. But the circumstantial case was overwhelming. In the end, the jury found Angie guilty of murder and document fraud. She was sentenced to 22 years in prison, 18 for murder and 4 for forgery. Though justice was served in Anna's case, the verdict left lingering questions. Had Angie done this before? And if so, would anyone ever prove it? Though Angie is now serving a lengthy sentence, not every question has been answered. The precise sedative used to incapacitate Ana Páez was never identified. The full extent of Angie's financial network and whether others assisted her remains unclear, and perhaps most haunting is the question surrounding her husband's death in 1996. Authorities reopened that investigation, but ultimately, there was not enough evidence to bring charges. Was Ana Páez the only victim, or just the only one discovered? In a life built on false names and forged papers, how much of Angie's story remains hidden? This case left an indelible mark on Spanish criminal justice. It prompted renewed scrutiny on identity fraud, tightened laws around life insurance policies, and shifted how authorities approach staged crime scenes. The public, once quick to believe the surface, became more skeptical. The media, though criticized for its spectacle, brought national attention to psychological manipulation and forensic oversight. And for Ana Páez's family, justice offered a measure of closure, but not peace. Her legacy lives on, not just in her designs, but in the laws and lessons shaped by her tragic end. Did you catch the clue? What did Angie allegedly plant at the scene to mislead investigators? Drop your answer now and subscribe for more. As always, stay curious, stay vigilant, and stay safe.